Hi everybody and welcome to Diana's Place. Today we're going to make one of my most favorite salads. It's a simple French vinaigrette dressing on simple greens. The thing that makes it so special is it goes with everything. It tastes amazing and it's fast to make. So let's get started. This recipe comes from one of my all-time favorite books, Mastering the Art of French Cooking by Julia Child. I've cooked my way through this book and I'll tell you, it is the principles of everything you'd ever want to learn. The recipe I go to almost on a daily basis is the classic French dressing, which is a vinegar and oil dressing. Very simple, but what makes it special are the ingredients. You want to make sure you use the finest ingredients that you can find. That's what makes the flavors pop. In this dressing, there is wine vinegar, and it can be a champagne vinegar, a white wine vinegar, or red wine vinegar. Today we're using red wine vinegar. It's made by the same brand that I use for balsamic vinegar, and it's Fini. It's from Italy. It's worth it to pay the money for good quality wine vinegar. It's just like drinking wine. You want the quality. Also, I use the best olive oil, my favorite olive oil. That can be anything that you personally like. It could be a very mild flavor to something more intense. I love the olive press. I belong to this. It's out of Sonoma, California. And this one, Sevillano, is a very buttery, sort of neutral, but just a beautiful, mildly green flavor with a butter finish. It's perfect in this salad. So we'll be using that today. I also use a really good Dijon mustard, and that can be whatever brand you prefer. They're pretty similar. And then fresh shallots. And the herbs I'm using today will be parsley and fresh thyme. You could use cilantro, you could use tarragon, it's anything that you personally like. The recipe I'll give you on the site will be exactly the one I make all the time, and literally I can eat an entire bowl full of it. It's amazing. Okay, so we're going to begin with combining the wet ingredients. So we're going to start with 1 tablespoon of the red wine vinegar. The classic vinaigrette uses anywhere between 1 to 2 tablespoons. I'm going to use 1. And the reason I'm using 1 is because this dressing has a bite to it. I mix it with sweet greens. So if you want a little more punch, use a little more vinegar. Now we're going to use 1/8 teaspoon of salt. I really like Maldon sea salt flakes. So if I'm going to use this salt to finish, I'll leave it flaky. It's just a very delicate little snowy sort of flakes. But I'm going to grind it for this so that it's just more chopped up. And I use my little mortar and pestle and I just literally grind it. I keep this right where I'm cooking and I just pinch and throw my salt in this way. So we're going to put 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Now we're going to add our Dijon mustard, and it's 1/2 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. So really quick, we've got our red wine vinegar, our Dijon mustard, and our salt. Now we're going to add the olive oil. We're going to use 4 to 5 tablespoons. I usually end up with 5 tablespoons, but it's really just the consistency that you want. So we're just going to do it one at a time and whisk that in. So we're at 3, we're going to add 4. Give it a whisk. See that perfect emulsion, it's beautiful. And 1 more for 5. So if you feel like you just need a little more dressing, add a little more olive oil. I've made this so many times, I trust exactly my measurements for my taste, but just feel free to taste it and make sure it's what you like. Know that it's going to be a strong flavor, and that's okay because it's going to be neutralized by the buttery, lovely, sweet lettuces that you'll use. Okay, so now we're going to prep our herbs. I have some fresh flat leaf Italian parsley. I'm just going to take these delicate little stems off because we don't need them. I'm going to push it into, so this much is going to make as much as I need for the salad. I'm going to cut this in half and stack it so that I've got a nice little pinched gathering of the herbs, and then I'm going to tuck my nails in. I'm just going to mince it and push my hands along so I get that lovely even mince. If there's anything missing that seems a little bit too chunky, just come back and keep fine-tuning it. I do it very fine for this. And there you go. I'm going to push it aside and I'm going to bring the thyme in. So with thyme, you're going to take the stem and you're going to pull them off in the opposite way. Look how simple that is. And then take the top little tuft of thyme and you're going to just make a little pile of it. We're going to use a half a teaspoon. Thyme has a nice flavor to it, but it is strong, so you don't really need more than half a teaspoon. So I have my nice little pile of thyme leaves. I'm going to, again, push it into a little pile and mince it up. I've taken most of the stems out. So this is approximately 1 teaspoon of thyme. This is about 1 tablespoon of herbs. Also going to mince a small shallot. For this salad, I'm using really the smallest bulb because I only want about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half minced. They're strong, they're delicious, but you don't want it to fight the whole entire flavor of the salad. So you leave the root end intact, it's peeled, and you're just gonna put slices down across, holding it, pinching it together, and then turning it sideways and doing the same thing. This is the fastest way to get a fine mince. Now I'm gonna turn it back and use my favorite bigger knife and go right down the middle. I'm going to give it really fine mince. Okay, so now we have a nice little fine dice. We're going to just whisk in the shallots, the parsley, and the thyme. So really simple. I'm going to just blend it together. Perfect. I'm going to add a little pepper. About 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground pepper. And that's it. Takes minutes. Now we're going to dress the salad and I'll show you the kind of lettuces that I use. So I like to use a combination of lettuces when I make this salad because I'm only using lettuce. I pick the freshest that I can find and I love a variety of textures and colors. I also love the flavor and texture of a Bibb lettuce. I pick the kind that has the root attached because it stays crisp and has that watery crunch. I've already washed it and prepped it, but I want to show you what it looks like. I've pulled all the stems off. It's very dry. I've washed it, I've spun it dry, and it's perfectly dry. And the reason for that is very important. When you add your dressing, you want it to cling to the lettuce leaves. If it's wet with water, the oil will resist it and slide off, and you'll have that pool of dressing at the bottom of your bowl, which you don't want. When you add your dressing, you want to just add it with a delicate touch. I put my hands right in it, pour it in, and feel. You just want a little coating on the leaves. You don't want to overdo it, and you don't want to underdo it, so you just have to get a feel for it. I dress it in one bowl, and I serve it in another so that it's pretty. So I'm going to give my dressing just a little more whisk. And spoon it on. Like a couple of spoonfuls and get my fingers in there. You just want to evenly coat it. Now, I usually have twice as much lettuce, but for the show, I'm just making a smaller portion. But this would do for an entire bowl full. So just know that. I'm not going to use it all because of the proportion. It's perfectly coated, not too wet, not too dry. So I have the lettuce leaves all dressed with the dressing with a nice little coating. I'm going to put them into a pretty bowl. This looks like a lot, but you'd be amazed. I can eat that entire bowl in about 5 minutes. So you can really double this recipe. I would recommend it if you're making it for a family, especially if I'm coming to dinner. So it's pretty, it's a nice combination of textures and color. And I'm gonna finish it off with shavings of Parmesan Reggiano cheese. This is a big blade. This is like a weapon, so you wanna be careful with it, but it gives the perfect shavings. I like my cheese to be at room temperature because then it shaves really easily. Be careful with this. And that's it. You could load it up with a lot more cheese if you want, but I just like a pretty little amount on top. So there you go. This is an amazing salad. It's delicious. I think you'll absolutely love it. If you've made the carrot soup, this would go really well with it in one of my last episodes, as well with hot, fresh dinner rolls. So give it a try, you'll love it. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you'll try this salad. I think it'll be your go-to salad on a weekly basis. If you've enjoyed the show, please hit the like button, subscribe, leave any comments. I'd be happy to get back to you, and I welcome hearing from you. Until next time, thanks everybody and take care. So today's salad is something that goes with just about anything. I love to serve it with lasagna. It comes from one of my all-time favorite books, Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking, which I have cooked my way through. Is that not only is it simple, but it's using the finest ingredients. The key to making this very simple vinaigrette special, there's not minced garlic, that's in the south of France. We're making more of the general